So I don't do that much web development, but I do occasionally have to work with the web. And in doing so, I find myself every single time, and I really mean every time that I do any web development, find myself having ideas for making some kind of framework or some kind of replacement or add-on to web technologies. And I think I understand why we seem to have a new JavaScript or web framework every 2 weeks or every month or something. There's like a new big thing. And there's so much discussion about this one versus that one, and what should he use, and why should he use this one over that one, and so on. And there's this whole idea of like stacks and packages and all these frameworks that pile on top of each other, and so on. So I definitely understand why there is so much of that, because if I work with the web every now and then, and every single time I do, I start to think about, oh, could I make like a compiler that makes it easier, or could I somehow, like, could I get rid of CSS, or could I get rid of this, or can I add this, can I add that, like, is it possible? These sorts of things. Then I'm sure that people who work a lot more with the web think about this a lot, and many of them actually go ahead and implement these things. The problem is, those things don't actually make the experience better. And I know, because I have used a lot of these frameworks. They are just as bad. They are just bad in other ways. They solve some problems, but they don't solve every problem. And usually they just create other problems. And I've been thinking a bit about why that is. And I think the main reason is that the web, or that we are using the web for something it's not meant to be. We are using the web nowadays essentially as an operating system that is cross-platform, essentially. It's a sandbox for apps. We're making apps that, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they would just be like a program that you install on your computer. And we are using the browser to do that, because it's very convenient, because it is cross-platform, allegedly. So I have two thoughts on this. First of all, if we are treating the browser as an operating system, it's a terrible operating system. It's absolutely horrendous. The interface is a text document. So it's imagine that you're programming like a Windows application or a Mac application or something. And the way you do that is by basically having to arrange things on a text document, on a text file. Now imagine making, graphical user interfaces, games like that. It's just impossible. It's just a nightmare. And that's exactly what the web is. That's exactly what making web apps is. It's a total nightmare. And no matter which framework you're using, no matter which flavor of the month fancy stack or whatever you're using, it's a nightmare, because we are essentially cramming functionality into a system, into a platform that does not support that functionality. And instead of saying, okay, let's scratch this text document, let's scrap this text document and just start from zero and do something else, we keep trying to shove this like interactive, graphics heavy applications into a text document. You wouldn't make a game in Word. So why do you want to make a game on the web? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the second thing is that browsers are not actually cross-platform. This is kind of a lie that we have told ourselves. As far as I see, the main reason for doing things on the web, and the reason that everyone has been like moving everything to the web in the past, in years, is that the web is cross-platform. So you don't need to make your desktop app, and then a mobile app. You don't need to make like a Windows app and a Mac app, a Linux app, and an Android and iOS and all these things. So you can just make your app once, and maybe you need to make it twice for like desktop and mobile, at least the layout. And then it like works magically, right? But this is a lie. This is not at all what happens. Like even very basic features like certain CSS properties or certain JavaScript features, they just don't work on certain browsers. Like you go to the documentation page and it says, oh, this doesn't work on whatever, or this only works partially. If you try to do this and this, it will break. Great. So it's not cross-platform at all. So what's the point, right? And especially once you get into some even less trivial things like file storage and asynchronous and file systems and stuff like that, then it turns into a real nightmare to keep track of which browsers do what, and you end up having to port your web app to different browsers. Like you end up having to explicitly program in things that will only work on Firefox, and other things that will only work on Chrome, and other things that only work on Safari. And you have to keep all these things under control. So we actually haven't really created a cross-platform platform. And there have been some attempts. There have been times where I thought, okay, this is actually fine. So a long time ago, we had Flash. That was, in my opinion, a very good way to do that, to do apps. Of course, it had problems. That's why it was discontinued. But we don't have a replacement for Flash. We have WebGL. WebGL is like fine. But for many things, it's overkill. That is the problem. For lots of things, WebGL is just total overkill. In my experience. Because WebGL is just very complicated. And we don't have an easy way, like Flash, easy way to just create a responsive, dynamic, animated app, like with a GUI and some images and, animations and all that. We don't have that. Of course, there are things that are built on top of WebGL. There's like Phaser, 3JS, this kind of stuff. But these are more like 3D engines. And again, they are complicated. They're meant to make something even more advanced. Like they're meant to make like 3D graphics and stuff, which WebGL definitely supports. But there's no middle ground. We have either a text document or we have like a full-blown 3D engine. Where's the in-between? Where's like the Windows Forms of the web? Where's like the SDL of the web? Where's something where I can say, hey, I want these UI elements, and I want this, and I want it to animate like this, and maybe I have like a curve that I can define, and it just works, yeah? And I don't need to install 20 million node packages and package managers and databases and whatever else, and I don't need to learn like a whole new way of thinking about the program, and I can just program the way that I program everywhere else. That is missing. And I think there is also an attempt currently with WebAssembly and WebGPU, but I'm not sure it's it either. It in theory allows you to take any other program and compile it into WebAssembly, but still the interface of the web is not made for that. Like the platform is just not made for that. For like, you know, porting, let's say, a normal program, like a more normal application, like whatever, Discord or Photoshop into the web. Yeah, so I think we need, as a society and as an industry, to really think about this from the ground up, really take a serious look at the web and what we are using it for. And what we are using it for is as an operating system, as a sort of cross-platform platform, right? And if that's what we want, then we should really consider making it good. Because right now, it really isn't.